After tormenting each other with Wei Xuan for most of our lives, he was tired. Before his death, he refused to see me even once, having our children deliver his last words to me. In the next life, I'd rather be siblings with you for a lifetime than spend half our lives as resentful lovers, each losing our true love. Sure enough, as soon as he came back from rebirth, he busied himself rescuing his childhood sweetheart from prison, showering her with endless affection. Then he forced his mother to come acknowledge me as his sister. I smiled as I accepted the jade pendant, obediently curtsying. "Blessings upon you, elder brother." His hand froze, stiffly dropping down. Soon after, we each got engaged. He stayed in the capital. I headed to Linan. But on the day the boat departed, he tore off his wedding robes, jumped into the river with no regard for his life, desperately clinging to the hull, begging me to stay. Our family has considered it, and it would be better for Honger to be my godar instead. Madame Wei came to the door to return the betrothal cards with birth characters, along with a jade pendant as compensation. Her expression awkward. Such an obvious excuse. Who wouldn't see through it? Mother didn't respond, not uttering a word, turning away and storming into the inner chamber. The two had known each other since their maiden days, and had never had such an ugly falling out. I walked over and took the jade pendant from the extremely embarrassed Madame Wei. To have two mothers who love me is Honger's blessing. Madame Wei was moved, sighing as she caressed my face. It is all because of that troublemaker in our family. I know. Recently, the capital has been buzzing with rumors, all about Wei Xuan removing his cap and kneeling in the hall, betting his entire future career, begging His Majesty to pardon a female prisoner about to be exiled due to her family's crimes. As a noble young master from an imperial consort's family, doing something so shameless, His Majesty was so furious. He personally beat him twice with a rod. Wei Xuan gritted his teeth and endured it, refusing to withdraw his request even if it killed him. When he got home, Father Wei beat him too, whipped him until the whip broke, locked him up, starved him for 3 days. Useless. He went through all that trouble to rescue the woman and kept her in the outer courtyard. One word from the woman about chest pain could make him so frantic, he nearly fell off his horse, rushing to the Empress's palace to snatch the imperial physician. Things have gotten this out of hand. There is nothing I can do either. Mother Wei lowered her head dejectedly. This son of mine, from childhood till now, has never asked me for anything. He said he could give up everything. He just wanted the Wang family girl to be safe. I know. In my past life, he said the same thing on his deathbed. In my past life, Wei Xuan and I were husband and wife for 16 years. No concubines, no troubles, blessed with both son and daughter. All the relatives would sigh that we were like Golden Boy and Jade Maiden, a loving couple without equal. But when he was gravely ill and dying, he wasn't even willing to see me one last time. He told our children, "I've fulfilled all my duty and obligation to your mother in this lifetime, but there is one person I owe for my entire life. If heaven had eyes and there truly was a next life, he would rather be distant siblings with me than repeat the tragedy of the Wang family daughter, who fell into depression and died on the exile road after hearing of his marriage." I thought what he said made a lot of sense. After seeing Mother Wei out, Mother had someone call me back. Inside the room, cups and vases lay shattered everywhere. Mother's anger hadn't subsided, and she glared at me sideways. "They just casually brushed us off, and you actually rushed up to acknowledge her as your birth mother. I raised such a spineless daughter." I stepped around the broken porcelain at my feet and snuggled up to Mother with a smile. "They give their perfunctory gestures, we give our courtesies, it is all the same." Mother snorted. "Smooth talker. With a tongue like that, how could you let your fiancée be snatched away by someone else and just obediently nod to become their little sister? In the future, such a good marriage match will be hard to find even with a lantern." The more Mother thought about it, the more she regretted it on my behalf, blaming herself for only throwing attitude and forgetting to fight for it a bit more. How many years has it been? It has been so long since I heard Mother's nagging. It wasn't until I later became a mother myself with a pair of children at my knees, fearing even the slightest hardship for them, that I understood Mother's painstaking intentions back then, nagging endlessly to make me marry into the Wei family. Or Chu family had already declined by Father's generation. 2 years ago, Father was assigned to a provincial post, caught an epidemic, and died in office. The title had no one to inherit it, leaving us as widow and orphan. Mother had to tread carefully at every step just to barely gain a foothold in the capital. But Mother. I wrapped my arms around her warm, fragrant shoulders, leaning against her with longing, lowering my eyes and speaking softly. What is mine? I don't need to fight for. What is not mine? I can't take no matter how I try. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly, as if rain was about to fall. Inside, the thick plum incense hung silent and ethereal, the gauze curtains swaying gently. Mother sighed. That may be so, but you'll have to marry eventually. You can't stay with me forever. What are we going to do about your marriage in the future? My eyelashes fluttered briefly, and I spoke carefully. It is not like the Wei family is the only one with sons in this world. Just a few days ago, someone from grandfather's family in Lenan came by, seemingly wanting to send word to propose to me. At the mention of this, the anger Mother had suppressed flared up again. She pulled my hands away and scolded. That is the man your cousin absolutely refused to have. Your damned uncle owes them a favor, so he is sweet-talking you into taking him instead. Mother looked at me warily. You better keep your eyes wide open. Don't go falling for that one from Lenan just to spite someone. I've asked around. That man got sick at 7 and the fever turned him into an idiot. At 17 he was cured, then became a good for nothing. Every decent girl in Lainan thinks even mentioning him dirties their mouth. Mother cupped my face in her hands and said proudly, not to mention a good girl like you, even if you were to marry for the 3rd time, it still wouldn't be his turn. Moved by Mother's care and protection, my nose stung with emotion. Suppressing my trembling, I curled into her soft embrace. But, Mother, how should I tell you? This good, for nothing you look down upon in every way, once saved my life. In my past life, when war ravaged and the city was besieged, when Wei Xuan abandoned me and our daughter to flee with our son, when my hand was severed and my daughter was starving on the verge of death, only he came back for me, carried me on his back, held my daughter in his arms, covered in blood, passed through dark, narrow alleys, crouched down, and let us climb over the broken wall, stepping on his back. We found a way to survive, but he fell behind the wall forever, arrows piercing his heart, dying with eyes wide open. I want to marry that good. For nothing in Lenan named Shen Lian, just like Wei Xuan, who insisted on saving the Wang family's daughter no matter what. I've made up my mind. People in the capital originally only said Wei Xuan was crazy. Now they've roped me in too. Wei Xuan also seemed to have a bit of that the magistrate may set fires, but common folk can't light lamps attitude. He made time to come find me. He started right off with, Chu Hong, have you lost your mind? He understood that I had also experienced rebirth, yet he couldn't comprehend. What is that Shen guy, anyway? Even if he saved your life, he is not worth throwing your whole life away for. By the willow embankment, countless slender threads, shimmering light and misty rain. I held my umbrella, gazing at Wei Xuan. His young appearance was very handsome, with sword-like brows and starry eyes, skin fresh as pear-blossom Xuan paper, forever painted with blue-green landscapes, rich and magnificent. His family, illustrious and glorious, made him cherish himself, so, cherishing the paternal bloodline his son shared with him. So when disaster struck, his first instinct was to protect his son. In his eyes, no matter how good a wife was, she was married in from another family. No matter how much he doted on his daughter, she would marry into another family. Only his youngest son, even though not born of his beloved, was truly one with him. When he spread his wings of pity and protection, he only took one fledgling with him. Later, the daughter grew distant from him. Until his death, she never called him daddy, like she did as a child. The youngest son said he closed his eyes with regret. Regret, really. Cold wind blew the slanting rain. My face covered in the fishy smell of water. Chu Hong, displeased with my absent-mindedness, he furrowed his long brows and raised his hand to pull me, as naturally as when we were husband and wife in our past life. I dodged a raindrop, and happened to also dodge his touch. Marriage is by parents' orders and matchmakers' words. I smiled, reminding him, "There is no need for you to worry about it. Is there, elder brother?" Drip. Drop raindrops splashed on Wei Xuan's frozen fingertips. Elder brother, he and I were now nominally brother and sister, and I still wore the jade Jew pendant his mother gave me at my waist. But he seemed to find it awkward, deliberately avoiding it, stiffly lowering his fingertips and hiding them in his wide sleeves. When he spoke, he still kept emphasizing, "Chu Hong, we were husband and wife after all. I truly want what is best for you." He spoke with earnest persuasion, as if truly afraid I would go down the wrong path and suffer. "Trust me, I won't harm you. That man has achieved nothing and isn't worth marrying. He saved you and Nianian. I remember this debt of gratitude. I'll repay it. Fame and future prospects. I'll provide them." "All right." I calmly shook my head. How does he still not understand? He and I, without Nianian, without children, are not husband and wife. It is not a matter of whether he is willing to bestow favors, but that it is no longer his business. Wei Xuan took a deep breath, gloom seeming to gather heavily between his brows. "Think it over again. Even Yue. Someone even your mother doesn't approve of. Can he be a good person? If you don't insist on marrying right now, He adjusted his tone, barely managing to stay calm. "When I have time, I'll find you a good match among the sons of noble families." I slowly raised an eyebrow, somewhat surprised he'd back down this much. My former brother-in-law lived an extra lifetime, and his tolerance has grown. But he probably won't have time. After just this short while, that delicate darling in his outer courtyard had another issue, sending someone urgently to find him. The servant boy arrived drenched and bedraggled on a fast horse. "Young master, since you weren't there, Miss Wang vomits every time she is given medicine. The imperial physician is so annoyed he has gone 2 more hairs white, and doesn't want to continue." Wei Xuan probably felt embarrassed, because the servant boy loudly announced his private affairs, and glared at the servant boy. He turned his head, seemingly hesitating on how to say goodbye to me. In my previous life, every time he wanted to leave, I would considerately hold back my grievances and say to him, "Go ahead." But this time I just smiled, like everyone else who had nothing to do with him, not staying in place to watch him leave. Left 1 step ahead, over in Lainan. Uncle was also quite astonished. He sent 3 letters in a row, 3 consecutive questions. "Honger really agreed to marry?" "Sister, you didn't lose your temper. This is so embarrassing, shall I? Your uncle also contribute to the dowry." Mother's forehead veins throbbed. She held back her anger and opened the last letter. It was the betrothal gift list attached by the Shen family. After scanning it a few times, suddenly, the veins on Mother's forehead miraculously calmed down. Good heavens. Mother stared blankly. I looked over curiously and was also stunned. Densely packed gold and silver, treasures and paintings, along with land properties and treasuries, dazzling to behold. Even marrying off a princess wouldn't match this grandeur, Mother murmured. I was so busy inquiring about his character that I forgot to ask about the family wealth. The Shen family is this rich. Would that money, grubbing old coot of a brother of mine, kindly give this up for his niece? Only after reading all the letters did we learn the reason. Uncle explained in tiny, cramped writing, quite disgruntled. They only wanted Honger. I offered 2 of my born daughters as concubines, and they still refused. MPH. Mother was tempted. She calculated carefully. Shen Lian is the legitimate eldest son of the main branch. No mother, has money, used to be simple, minded, easy to coax. The other branches below are honest, easy to manage. Linan is right by her maternal home, no fear of being bullied. Mother clapped her hands, completely changed her attitude, and smiled. A fine son-in-law. I smiled along, my eyes curving, me gaze fixed on that line. I just want Honger lost in thought. Soon, my marriage was settled. The capital and Linan were too far apart. To make the wedding convenient and spare us the hard journey, grandfather wrote early asking mother and me to come to Linan to prepare for the wedding. Seeing me stubbornly going my own way, Wei Xuan's expression turned cold too, and he stopped caring about me. By some coincidence, on the day my family announced the wedding date, he announced his too. The dates were very close. His was on the very day mother and I planned to leave the capital, with the whole family returning to Linan. There was naturally much to prepare. While across the street, the Wei family was also busy with their wedding. My family couldn't attend the Wei family's wedding banquet, so we sent congratulatory gifts before leaving. As the carriage drove past the Wei family's gate, the festive music inside began to play, squeaking and humming. Wind, strings, plucking and singing, festive and spirited. I passed by these melodies, just as I passed by my previous life that was neither joy nor sorrow, welcoming a new life where dawn breaks through the mist. The boat was about to leave. I was nervous inside. After all, my only impression of Shen Lian was that vice-general who liked drinking and playing finger, guessing games under the great general's command when we were trapped in Long City. By then his family had probably already fallen into decline. He always looked lazy and half asleep when patrolling the city. Recalling that he had once approached grandfather wanting to propose to me, I felt quite dismissive, even somewhat contemptuous. But he never brought it up, even when he drank himself into oblivion, falling headfirst into wine jars. He never dragged me into any connection with him. He just happened to pass by each time on his city patrols, seeing my child run out clamoring to pick the apricots by the door, while I struggled to reach them. So he kindly stopped, and amid the child's cheers, smiled softly, carefully pouring a lapful of ripe apricots into the child's palms. Then, the next time we met, it was him running back to find me, trading his death for my life. I couldn't help but wonder, what would he be like at this age, having just come of age? Would those eyes be drenched with weariness from alcohol, just like in the past life? Would we come to understand each other's true nature and love each other for a lifetime? The ship's bell swayed, the sails unfurled. I quietly let out a breath, held my mother's hand, and walked toward the boarding plank. In the distance, hooves galloped wildly, faintly. Someone called out to me. The wind was too strong, billowing the vibrant splendor of his wedding robes into a swirl of chaotic red. Wei Xuan fell off his horse, staggering to his feet and running toward me. He said, "Wait, wait, Xu Hong." But the ship's ropes loosened, just like when he let go of my hand while fleeing for our lives in the past life. Impossible to hold backsplash. He actually jumped into the water amid everyone's shocked cries, one hand desperately gripping the ship's hull, the other clutching my sleeve, making me stumble and fall toward him. Water droplets splashed, sliding down cheeks like tear stains. His black hair disheveled and clinging. He looked up and begged me, "Stay. I'll marry you." Just like in the past life, he said. What was my past life with Wei Xuan like? Not long after I married him, the Wang family's daughter died. At that time, my relationship with him really couldn't be called good. He chopped down all the white plum trees in the courtyard and planted hibiscus flowers everywhere. The courtyard full of vivid red was his way of reminiscing about the Wang family's daughter. The Wang family's daughter, Wang Fuzong, Hibiscus blooms all year round, never wilting year after year. When summer came, that glaring fierce red was like the scorching poison of flowing flames, and I couldn't help feeling irritated just looking at it. I didn't like living in that courtyard, often finding excuses to go to the side courtyard next to the Buddhist hall, to pray for my sick mother. Our relationship turned around and became close after my mother passed away, not long later. After sending off my mother's coffin and returning, I fell on the stone steps of the mountain temple and cried. He hesitated, then reached out his hand toward me. The man's back was broad. Lying on it, my eyes blurred with tears, I thought he would be my support for this lifetime. Later I gave birth to a pair of children, and his smiles grew more frequent. He would compromise for the children, planting a few apricot trees the children liked in that courtyard full of red. He tied swings on them. Occasionally, when the children mischievously broke hibiscus branches and got petals all over his official hat, he didn't get angry either. He would just deliberately put on a stern face and tell them, "If you keep fooling around, tonight your mother will only sleep with me." The children protested loudly. He bent down and picked up one in each arm, raising his eyebrows and smiling at me standing under the corridor. At that moment, I gazed hazily at the sparse apricot tree behind him, feeling that the apricot blossoms blooming and scattering as they fell had become 8 parts similar to the plum blossoms I loved. But I forgot. Something that merely resembles another, even by 8 parts, can't compare to 10 parts of reality. Just flowers in a mirror, the moon in water. Now Wei Xuan's true beloved was right before him, just one step away from making up for his regrets. Yet I didn't understand why he was reminiscing about the bewilderment of his past life. His dying words still echoed in my ears. He might have forgotten, so I gently reminded him. "You were right. A lifetime as siblings is better than half a life as resentful lovers." He tilted his head up and pulled at me, drawing very close, yet he could no longer hold on to me, tying me with the rope called wife. Not far away, servants of the Wei family swam over in a panic. I covered Wei Xuan's ice, cold hand, and pried his fingers open one by one with force. "If you truly want to treat me well, then come as my elder brother bearing wedding gifts, and drink at my wedding feast fair and square." The wind of Lan'an was saturated with moisture, blowing against my face, making even my lashes so damp and heavy they could be wrung out. Many people from my maternal grandfather's family came to receive us. Uncle's family stood on the shore, waving at us. Uncle had put on weight. As soon as we disembarked, Mother teased him. "Big brother, you haven't snagged a single proper official post all these years, but you've certainly snagged plenty of perks, huh?" Uncle squinted his eyes and chuckled. Me still has her charm too. If you don't look closely, one really can't count all the wrinkles on your face." The two of them bickered there, openly and covertly, while my maternal aunt and cousin smilingly held on to me, ignoring them. My maternal aunt and cousin spoke in soft Wu dialect, so delicate and gentle. "Was the journey tiring? Your second cousin went hunting in the mountains, said he wants to catch fresh rabbits for you." My cousin took my arm to help me onto the carriage. He just loves hanging around with those Shen family boys. Now that it looks like we're going to be in-laws with the Shen family, he has gotten so wild he has forgotten his own surname. At the mention of the Wei family, my cousin bit her lip, moved away from Mother and my maternal aunt, lowered her voice and asked, "How did Auntie agree to marry you off to the Shen family? That Shen Lian, his reputation isn't good." I said it was my own wish to marry him. Me cousin was surprised and asked me, "Didn't you used to like Wei Xuan?" At an age of youthful infatuation, seeing the noble young lord riding through the imperial street during the New Year's parade, my heart thundered uncontrollably and irrepressibly. I poured it into a letter, sent it to Linan, seeking my cousin's help. My cousin said, "If you like someone, work hard to pursue them. Chasing love is not shameful. It is not exclusive to men. A proper gentleman, a lady can pursue him too. after learning that he was the Wei family young Lord Mother had painstakingly wanted me to marry. Relying on Mother's boudoir friendship with Lady Wei, I often ran off to the Wei residence. As soon as I saw Wei Xuan, getting just a few words from him, I would happily write to my cousin, describing everything from his handsome eyebrows to the colors of his clothes. 3 pages weren't even enough. It annoyed my cousin so much that every time she replied, she racked her brains, not knowing how to go along with it. Me cousin still laughs thinking about it. Back then, I was so afraid of saying something wrong. If I said a single bad word about Wei Xuan, you'd send me another long letter to argue with me. I lowered my gaze and said softly, I was naive back then. My cousin had such a perceptive heart. She understood at once and gently patted the back of my hand. Back then, I didn't dare say anything bad about Wei Xuan, but now there is one thing I am certain of. Shen Lian definitely surpasses Wei Xuan in one way. I looked up in confusion. Me cousin affirmed with an extremely exaggerated expression. Although Shen Lian's reputation isn't good, his looks are truly good. I PFFT, let out a laugh, feeling that my cousin was just teasing me. In my previous life, Shen Lian had a scruffy beard, a hunched back, and drooping brows. He really couldn't be called handsome. My cousin said, Really, you'll know when you see him soon. Soon. The carriage slowly came to a stop, and before us was a group of elegant young lords riding horses and releasing hawks. On the left was my second cousin, and a few young men were grinning as they pushed forward a young man in the middle, wearing a jeweled hair crown. Go on, go on. The young man stiffly held a delicate little rabbit as he dismounted, sunlight sweeping across the golden embroidery on his robe hem, the gentle breeze urging him on. The carriage curtain lifted high. He and I unexpectedly locked eyes, her jade. White complexion flushed red all at once. I never imagined Shen Lian looked like this in his youth. Beautiful as fine jade, eyes like rippling water, hair black as a raven's. He was very nervous, hurriedly stuffing the rabbit into my hands without saying a single word. The redness on his face had nearly spread to the corners of his eyes. He hastily bowed to the elders and ran off. This drew endless teasing from everyone. I was slightly lost in thought. After arriving at my maternal grandfather's house, I only learned at the evening banquet that people in Linan said Shen Lian had a bad reputation, mostly because he spent his prime youth not pursuing scholarly honors, but frequenting pleasure houses and composing lyrics and music for singing girls. Combined with that appearance of his, it made him seem all the more like he was fair on the outside, but foul within. Gradually, the people of Line came to regard him as a hopeless wastrel, and respectable girls avoided him like the plague. Me maternal grandfather had this concern in mind when he set the wedding date for next year. Although they say you can know a person's face but not their heart, there is no smoke without fire, and even among countless rumors, there is always a grain of truth. Honger, you are young. The worst thing in matters of marriage is acting on impulse. Take more time to consider carefully, and remember the lesson that once a woman is ensnared in love, she cannot escape. Hearing this, I felt somewhat ashamed. In my past life, I married Wei Xuan on a momentary impulse, and then decided Shen Lian was a good man simply because he saved my life. I always acted on impulse, recklessly giving myself away. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I still haven't changed my stubborn ways. I nodded earnestly. Grandfather's loving concern, Honger understands. Mother listened from the side and also felt uneasy, vexedly gripping my hand. I was also muddled, seeing all those advantages of his family and thinking about competing with the Wei family out of spite. I momentarily forgot about Shen Lian's character. Today, seeing his face pretty like a woman's, he looks like one who attracts bees and butterflies. Maybe we should just forget about it. The words barely left her mouth before I could react. Second cousin got anxious first. He ran over. Aya, auntie, the people outside are just talking nonsense. Shen Lian does know some lyric, writing and music composition, but he won't even meet singing girls face to face, usually cold as can be. He only blushes when he sees little cousin. He turned his head, patting his chest. Little cousin, trust your cousin, I won't trick you. These days you come play with me. I guarantee I'll show you what kind of person Shenlian is. Second cousin is the most unreliable. Before leaving, he assured the family in every way that he would follow me step by step, but ended up putting me on a small boat and ran off. Shenlian, who had also been tricked into coming, and I stared at each other at the bow of the boat. When our gazes met, he immediately lowered his eyes, awkwardly rowing the oars. Green ripples rose on the water. Early summer lotus fragrance, dappled tree shadows overhead, cicadas chirping by my ears. In the silence, I gradually relaxed, stealing glances at him, but he seemed so hot that steam was rising from his head, constantly licking his dry lips, unable to catch his breath. The sun isn't even that strong today. I looked up in puzzlement, just as I was about to ask if he wanted some water. I looked at him, only to catch him red-handed sneaking glances at me. He hastily turned his face away and bumped into a lotus leaf. A cascade of water droplets splashed all over his face. PFF'd. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. He froze for a moment, his features fresh as if just washed. Black eyes clear, thin lips as vivid as red water caltrops pressed together, and he smiled too. This time it was my turn to feel my cheeks grow hot. I looked away, stared at the flowers, and pulled out a handkerchief to cover my face. Suddenly an east wind rustled through, blowing away my handkerchief, drifting into the depths of the swaying reds and greens. Without a second word, Shenlian dove into the water and swam in to retrieve my handkerchief. I shuddered in fright. Shenlian, don't bother picking it up. Come back. Light thunder rumbled beyond the lotus pond. Dark clouds blocked the sun, and in an instant the sky turned dim. This scene was too similar to the weather when Shenlian died in my previous life. The damp, stifling air, impossible to breathe. I told him to go, to leave us alone, but he stubbornly carried me and our daughter on his back, without a word. Then, he died. Shenlian. I gripped the side of the boat. The rain came pouring down, and not far away, Shenlian emerged from the water, dripping wet, smiling triumphantly as he held up my handkerchief. My face was deathly pale. His smile gradually froze. Back on shore, we walked into the waterside pavilion to shelter from the rain, silent the whole time. He returned the handkerchief to me, and seeing the moisture in my eyes, he suddenly panicked and finally spoke his first words to me. But it was, "I am sorry. I am sorry. I scared you." It would have been fine if he hadn't said anything, but the moment he spoke, my tears fell. The guilt over his death in his past life, the sorrow of bearing that weight, and even seeing his peace and prosperity in this life, 1,000 thoughts and feelings that I couldn't explain myself. Shenlian seemed terrified of my tears. He wanted to wipe them with his sleeve, but couldn't find a dry spot anywhere on himself, so he could only hover around me meekly. Unexpectedly, before he could speak, Shenlian was suddenly shoved aside, and a sinister voice came from above. Scram! I looked at the newcomer in astonishment. Did he bully you? Weishuan came with ill intentions. Unlike Shenlian, who was too nervous to even touch a corner of my clothes, he familiarly raised his hand and wiped away my tears. Then he turned on his heel, about to beat up Shenlian. Shenlian stared back coldly. No, it is a misunderstanding. I hurriedly grabbed Weishuan's wrist. He is my fiancé. The atmosphere suddenly froze. I composed myself, put some distance between Weishuan and me, and asked him, "Brother, why did you suddenly come to Linan?" As soon as that form of address came out, Shenlian's expression softened, while Weishuan's didn't look too good. Shenlian seemed quite familiar with the capital's affairs. He smiled slightly. This must be that brother from the Wei family. Coming from so far away, This younger brother has been rude. In front of outsiders, Shen Lian was composed and measured, not timid in the slightest. Wei Xuan, however, lost his composure, his tone unfriendly. It is not your turn to put on false courtesy. Shen Lian's expression remained unchanged. It is only a matter of time. The two were secretly throwing daggers at each other with their eyes. Luckily, second cousin saw the rain getting heavier and came to fetch me, breaking this eerie atmosphere. The Wei family and mine were old acquaintances. Grandfather had once served as an official in another region together with their elders. Since Wei Xuan had also taken me as his sister and came from afar, Grandfather let him stay at the house temporarily. He came to find a doctor for Wang Fusang. Wang Fusang had fallen ill in prison, and despite prolonged treatment, couldn't recover. Hearing that a miracle doctor lived in seclusion at Meissen in Linan, skilled at treating stubborn ailments, Wei Xuan made the arduous journey here. Young Master Wei is so deeply affectionate and loyal. How nice, Mother remarked sarcastically. Wei Xuan glanced at me, explaining to who knows whom I am just mindful of our childhood friendship, and can't bear to see her suffer for the rest of her life. Once she is cured, I'll send her back to her clan's hometown and treat her as a real sister from then on. Sister again. How much does he love being everyone's brother? I had nothing to say, bowed slightly to excuse myself, and returned to my room. When I reached the small bridge on the covered walkway, Wei Xuan caught up. He said he had no intention of marrying Wang Fusang, that it was just an act out of anger. His dying words in the previous life were also out of spite, because I had been distant and cold to him ever since I returned from Longcheng. I just wanted you to care about me. His voice trembled. Honger, I can't feel at ease handing you over to someone else. Can't feel at ease. The calm composure I maintained on my face showed a crack as I looked at him mockingly. So back then, when you abandoned me and your daughter in that chaotic city, you felt at ease? I reminded him. Nianian was only 4 years old, so hungry she couldn't even cry out for her mother. He froze. I moved closer, lowering my voice. How come? You don't remember the wrongs you should remember, and never do the things you should do to treat me well? Watching him turn pale from being confronted with the sins he had deliberately avoided, I took a step back, my voice ice, cold. You knew perfectly well my mother would soon fall suddenly ill. That is why, as soon as I arrived in Linan, I went through all that trouble to invite Dr. Xu from Meissen. Years of grievances came crashing down like a mountain. How many imperial physicians in the capital could have treated her, yet you just had to come compete with me. Wei Xuan, you want me to care about you, but have you ever cared about me even a little? He shook his head. I wasn't competing, Honger. His eyes brimmed with tears. I just wanted an excuse to see you. I was afraid if I let go, you'd really marry someone else. His expression had fallen into obsession. The wrongs I've done to you, mother and daughter, can never be repaid in a lifetime. So heaven gave me this chance to make amends. We're destined to be together. Don't you want our children to return to our side? At the mention of the children, my heart ached, and I resolutely shook off his hand. If you were still to be their father, I imagine they wouldn't want to be reborn into my womb either. Wei Xuan shuddered violently, on the verge of collapse. That day of sudden rain, 2 people fell ill. Wei Xuan stayed in Linan, using accumulated illness from worry as an excuse to not return to the capital for a long time. As for Shen Lian, his old illness had truly relapsed. I had second cousin bring Dr. Xu to examine him. He said the severe poisoning in childhood had damaged his body, and although the poison had dissipated as he grew up, it had ultimately harmed his constitution. When the illness flared up, it felt like 100 claws scratching at his heart. He could only endure it, or numb himself with alcohol. So that is why he drank so much in my previous life. But now he refused to touch a single drop, preferring to endure it. Second cousin sighed. He never wanted to become a good, for-nothing drunkard. Back then, his stepmother poisoned him, turning him from a child prodigy into a fool, ridiculed by others for 10 years. The apricots in the courtyard had ripened, but no one picked them. One or two fell and rotted in the rain and mud. He also wanted to pull himself together and take the imperial examinations. But then Uncle Shen suddenly passed away. Observing mourning delayed him for 3 years, and the Shen clan patriarch is getting old too. He has to manage all the family businesses, big and small. The melancholic lyrics he wrote in pleasure quarters spread along the Huai River through the singing of courtesans, pouring all his talent into frivolous tunes. Wasn't that just another form of disillusionment? I lowered my eyes gloomily and walked to the apricot tree. But then second cousin's tone shifted as he said sneakily, "But guess what he was doing when I went to see him today?" I pushed his head away, annoyed. "I asked you to consult Dr. Shu about treatment methods, but instead of doing that, you just went to watch him make a fool of himself. Are you even his friend, cousin?" Second cousin let out a long, "Hey, times are different now." He can really endure it, actually gritting his teeth and sitting up to write classical commentaries. Seeing that desperate look of studying like his life depends on it, even I got scared. After saying that, second cousin leaned in again, looking all sleazy. "Guess why he is working so hard?" I covered my ears. Second cousin's voice still drifted in, rambling on and on. "It is all because rivals in love get extra jealous when they meet. Once he learned that young Master Wei has a title to inherit, and even passed the imperial exam with flying colors. TSK, TSK, TSK. This motivation works better than Shunzi Zerda exhortation to learning. Even illness has to take a back seat." I turned my back, cheeks flushed red, but second cousin kept following and nagging. "Little sis, you gotta keep your word once you've claimed him. You can't just dump him. If you turn around and run off with young Master Wei, Shenlian might just hang himself from anger. Believe it or not. Just take the other day. He was trying to please you by picking up your silk handkerchief. Then you started crying and sent him back all drenched, tossing and turning. Even delirious with fever, he kept grabbing me asking, Why was your sister crying? Faye, how would I know?" All I could do was console him. "Sorry, bro. Women are made of water, and my little sister is basically Westlake turned spirit. You gotta get used to it. Once she marries in, you'll have plenty more to deal with. You are the one who is a duck turned spirit, running your mouth all over the place." I was both embarrassed and angry. I stood on tiptoe to pull down a heavy branch nearby, picked an unripe apricot, and stuffed it into his mouth. Second cousin's face twisted. "Pooey, tooey, tooey!" Peace at last. When Dr. Shu returned, I hurried to find him. "I am sorry to trouble you, sir. Is there any way to completely cure young Master Shen's illness?" In the inner hall, Dr. Shu set down his medicine box, stroked his beard and pondered. Hard to say. I lowered my gaze. Grandfather and mother had always been wavering on this marriage. If Shen Lian's illness couldn't be cured, the marriage might really fall through. I bit my lip, conflicted about how to respond. After thanking the doctor, I prepared to leave. "Miss," Dr. Shu called out to stop me from behind. He suddenly brought up how I had gone to Meissen to find him, and asked me, "Do you still remember why I agreed to come out of seclusion for you, miss?" I recalled, and said carefully, "You said, because of a dream." He nodded, stood up with his hands clasped behind his back, and paced to the window. "That dream recurred for several days. Only when you arrived did I understand the cause and effect." He had his back to me. I was merely a reclusive fisherman and woodcutter, hidden from the world for many years. Though I possessed medical skills, no one knew of them. Yet you suddenly came looking for me, certain that I could cure illness. I was startled, suddenly realizing my carelessness. Dr. Shu of Meissen's fame would only spread throughout the land more than a decade later, after the chaos of war. At that time, soldiers in the army drank river water contaminated by plague, ridden corpses maliciously dumped by the barbarians. Cholera broke out suddenly, and the people suffered greatly. So he resolutely left the mountains and joined the army as a physician. Later, through a twist of fate, he was captured by the Hu people. Fortunately, Shenlian risked his life to rescue him and brought him to Longcheng. With such a life-saving grace, Master Shu had always treated Shenlian like a son. Back then, I often saw Master Shu, his hair and beard all white, hunching his back, angrily dragging Shenlian out of the tavern. Now thinking about the poison in Shenlian's body, one can imagine the pain he couldn't suppress back then. Under the pressure of fighting for his life in the army, he could only numb it with alcohol. One dusk, when the sky was dark, the two of them, one drunk. One old both accidentally fell into a ditch. It was the children playing at the doorway who saw and called out loudly to me, and together we struggled to carry them back home. Sometimes, moved by Master Shu's medical virtue, from the grain that Wei Xuan had people bring in from outside, I would secretly save some of my own rations, and when no one was around, leave them at Master Shu and Shenlian's back door. Later, when the city fell and it became a matter of life and death, Master Shu and Shenlian both chose to stay in the city. Without food or water, it was too hard. Master Shu was old and couldn't hold on. The last time I saw Master Shu, Shenlian hurriedly carried me on his back to his side. He used every last bit of his strength to set my hand that had been stomped and broken by the Hu people. But these matters of the past, how could I explain them clearly? I fell silent. Master Shu didn't seem to insist on an answer either, just smiled and shook his head. In those dreams, the young lady and I shared several fates, and that Shen family boy gave me quite a few headaches too. I was stunned. Sir, you mean, Master Shu waved his hand, just telling you not to worry. The boy is still young, much easier to treat than in the dreams. He also told me to rest easy about Mother's health. Just have her lose her temper less often. Take medicine and rest well, and she'd be fine. 2 rays of hope breaking through the darkness. How could I not be overjoyed? Thank you, sir. I ran outside, not knowing who to share my joy with, then ran back in, too excited to contain myself, and bowed again. Thank you, sir. This time I really ran out. I had to tell Mother that Shenlian would be fine, that I was going to spend my whole life with him. In the wind, I faintly heard Master Shu behind me laugh helplessly with a sigh. Still just children, aren't they? Shenlian felt that he wasn't doing well. Ever since meeting Wei Xuan from the capital, and then looking at himself, no achievements, no reputation, plagued by illness, he had developed a sense of inferiority. That feeling wasn't overwhelming. It wrapped around him like air, causing a suffocating ache in his heart at every moment, yet never reaching the point of death. So he said to the uncles and aunts who came to comfort him and check on his illness, I can't compare to Wei Xuan. She definitely won't choose me anymore. Several aunts felt sorry for him and spoke up one after another. Marrying a husband isn't like selecting officials. Miss Chu's marriage to you is already settled. You should hurry up and get better so you can bring her home properly. That is right. Girls all like good-looking ones. Young Master was born so handsome, no matter what else you lose at. You'll never lose with this face, Shenlian murmured. Does she like me? Then why did she cry? Going round and round back to this question again. The aunties were at a loss for words, struggled for a moment, then quickly coaxed him. She must be aching for you. The water was so deep, with thunder and lightning, and you jumped in. How could she not worry? Aching for him, aching for him. Aching for him, Shenlian felt as if he had suddenly heard divine proclamation, and abruptly sprang up from the pile of books. The fading aches in his bones turned into tingling numbness, making his whole body feel so weak. He was intoxicated. He almost wanted to immediately beg the aunts and uncles to go discuss with Lady Chu about moving up the wedding date. He couldn't wait until next year. What if that bastard surnamed Wei pulled some dirty tricks to seduce Chu Hong away? Then he'd really want to hang himself. But then he immediately stopped himself. It is not enough for a man to be good, looking and wealthy. He must have the ability to protect his wife, to shield his wife and children from hardship for a lifetime. He must first pass the imperial examinations and become an official. He recalled the nightmare from last night. Because no one from the Shen clan held a position at court, they became a big target, and their vast family fortune was schemed against by corrupt officials. Later, to protect his clansmen, he had no choice but to join the army. And the husband Chu Hong married didn't treat her well either. The treasure he longed for but couldn't have, the one he tossed and turned over, was being trampled upon by someone else. Just a dream alone made Shenlian so angry he wanted to kill someone. If it were real, how could that be tolerated? He thought, no. He had to hurry and prepare for the exams, pass all the hurdles along the way, take the spring imperial examination, and only after getting a ranking would he be qualified to marry Chu Hong. The family watched him there having an internal struggle with himself, his brows loosening then tightening. Then, as if injected with chicken blood, he continued writing furiously. At this moment, someone suddenly came to the side gate to deliver a message. The young lady of the Chu family had someone pick a basket of sweet apricots to send over, saying it is for the young master to taste something fresh while he is ill. Before everyone could react, they only felt a gust of wind pass by, and Shenlian, all bright and radiant, ran to the door, as if he'd breathed in immortal air and came back to life. That little basket was exceptionally delicate, obviously a girl's belonging at first glance. The apricots were golden yellow, pressed against moist fresh green leaves, mouth-wateringly tempting. Uncle Shen nearby saw this, grabbed one in his hand, and was about to taste it, but it was snatched away by Shenlian beside him, who protectively put it back in the basket, being very stingy. If Uncle wants to eat some, have someone buy them. Don't damage mine. Uncle Shen awkwardly rubbed his fingertips, looking at the foolish boy's light and smug retreating figure, somewhat worried, muttering. We finally cured his stupidity. How did he develop another condition? Lovesickness isn't easy to cure. Who knows if that basket of apricots sent over worked some magic? But Shenlian made rapid progress over the next half-year, passing all the way to become a juren, leaving the teachers at the academy amazed. Seeing this made my aunt envious too, dragging second cousin to study with his head hung from the beam every day. Now second cousin can't stand hearing the word Shen. The moment he hears it, he sees stars and hates Shenlian to death, taking out his anger on others. He won't even help deliver the letters Shenlian writes to me anymore. Compared to my little troubles, Wei Xuan dragged things out in Linan until autumn, but finally couldn't delay any longer. He and Miss Wang probably had problems with their relationship. When Miss Wang came to him in tears like pear blossoms in the rain, there was actually disgust in his eyes. I was familiar with that look. It was nothing but how he looked when he first married me in my previous life. So it turned out he didn't love Fusang that much either. It was only because she died early and died for him that his lofty desire for conquest was satisfied. He obtained this woman's eternal love, yet couldn't repay even a fraction of it, and winning my affection was too easy. So he didn't think much of me. Nothing more than that. I suddenly understood this man I had placed on a pedestal. I once wondered why, no matter how hard I tried to wipe away the dust of coldness on him, I could never return to that bright image from my fleeting glimpse on Imperial Street. It turned out it was simply because he was just one of all those selfish, heartless men in this mundane world. What I fell in love with was a brilliant illusion, and I used a wife's devotion to mold and worship an idol, making him my whole sky. And only when the sky collapsed did I finally see the truth of marriage. Don't love an imagined husband. Love what is real. Love someone who is already a good person. Before leaving, Wei Xuan wanted to see me one last time. He had someone pass a message, saying he would come to Linan after settling Wang Fuzong, along with a thick stack of letters. I didn't look at them at all, took them directly and threw them into the stove. The servant delivering the message tentatively asked, "Does Miss have any words for young Master Wei?" I shook my head, quietly watching the fire in the stove burn the papers completely clean, turning them to ashes. After that, Wei Xuan never came to Linan. I heard his behavior of sheltering a convicted minister's daughter made His Majesty lose all patience, and with the intention of disciplining the imperial relatives, he was demoted to Yongzhou to reflect. He begged repeatedly, not for his marriage with Miss Wang, but to delay his departure date for the assignment until the following year. Spring brought warmth, and joy arrived at our door. Shenlian ranked high in the palace examination and would soon enter the Hanlin Academy. He handed the family business to his uncles to manage, planning to complete the wedding ceremony in Linan before returning to the capital with me. Mother naturally had no objections, just laughed that after all the back and forth, we still ended up rooted in the old place. As the bride was to leave, Mother combed my hair and lovingly reminded me not to cry later. It won't look good if your makeup runs. Our Honger must marry her good man happily. I nodded with a lump in my throat, smiling at the mirror. Unexpectedly, as the auspicious hour approached, second cousin had a sudden problem and couldn't get up. The person meant to carry me out on his back was suddenly gone, and uncle was so anxious his head ached. This little troublemaker's gone completely mad. Couldn't wait for the wedding feast, insisted on drinking with the Shen boys until midnight last night. Now where are we supposed to find an elder brother? Among the guests, a man who had been silent for a long time stepped forward. I'll do it. It was Wei Xuan. He gave a dowry of 120 carriers in the name of an elder brother. Wedding music played. Plum trees sprouted leaves. Pomegranate flowers bloomed bright atop the walls. The red bridal veil covering my eyes. Lying against the man's slender back, I pretended not to know who he was, and he didn't speak either. Step by step, he walked very steadily. Only when he placed me into the bridal sedan, a warm teardrop fell on the back of his hand. Not mine. I calmly wiped it away. All the way through the main street, we arrived at the Shen residence. Shenlian led me through the door, carefully. After the wedding chamber teasing ended, night fell. His face flushed red as he lifted my veil, eyes glistening like spring water, eyelids as if dusted with rouge. Only then did I ask him why he was so set on marrying me. Shenlian leaned in, pressing his forehead against mine, and softly told me about when he followed his uncles to the capital years ago. New Year's Day, on the Imperial Street, the Grand Garden Festival. At that naive age, when he knew nothing of love, he saw me among the myriad lights. His heart struck like thunder, unstoppable from then on. The red curtains fell, silhouettes entwined neck to neck. Outside fireworks bloomed like brocade. Inside the golden lion censer grew cold. Mandarin ducks churned the waves, scattered red in disarray. The beautiful days of this life begin from tonight. Shen Lian Extra. When you come to the carved window someday, ask not whether the plum has bloomed. The red candle crackled with a pop, startling me awake from my daze. Turning my head to look, Honger was utterly exhausted, curled up in the brocade quilt sleeping soundly, the corners of her eyes still tinged with a faint flush, much like that green apricot she handed to my cousin in the rain that day. Everyone mocked me, the Shen family's son from Linan, as gilded on the outside, a dissolute dandy who only knew how to write lyrics for songstresses. But they didn't know that back then. Residual poison lingered in my body, gnawing at my marrow like ants. On every sleepless night, I could only vent my agony by writing sorrowful verses. Those pleasure houses, I merely went to listen to music in exchange for medicine money. I never even touched a songstress's sleeve. I kept myself pure as jade for 20 years, only because an inexplicable sense of desolation always lingered in my heart, until that New Year's Day when I accompanied my uncles to the capital. Amid the fading lights, I saw that girl on horseback with a smile radiant as flowers, and the void in my heart was suddenly filled. I wanted to marry her. The moment this thought arose, what followed were nightmares, night after night. In the dreams, it was also such a gloomy, rainy day, amid crumbling walls and ruins. I carried on my back a woman whose face I couldn't see clearly, pierced by 10,000 arrows. That despair and helplessness left me drenched in cold sweat, even after waking. Master Shu said it was soul separation sickness, but I felt it was a warning from the heavens above. So I became afraid. When I saw Honger again in Linan, when I saw that Wei Xuan make her cry, the woman in my dreams suddenly had a face. I studied like a madman. I knew Wei Xuan had a noble title. I knew that in the dream I was just a powerless deputy general who couldn't even carry her on my back and crawl out of that dead end. In this life, I will become an official. I will have the power to protect her. Shen Lian. The person in my arms stirred, opened her eyes groggily, and called my name in a soft, gentle voice. My heart was about to melt. I lowered my head and kissed her forehead, holding her even tighter. Sleep. I am here. She nuzzled deeper into my arms, mumbling as if sleep, talking tomorrow. I want to eat apricots. I couldn't help but smile, tucking in the corner of the blanket. The bitter winds and rains of my past life have all passed. Now I am Editor Shen of the Hanlin Academy, not that wandering soul who fell in the mud. The moonlight outside the window is just right. Tomorrow will surely be a sunny day, and I will get up early to pick a pocketful of the sweetest ripe apricots for her.